It says that somehow Venezuela is not involved in the drug trade because the UN says they're not involved in the drug. I don't care what the UN says. The UN doesn't know what they're talking about.
The United States is profoundly concerned and incredibly disappointed with the renewed outbreak of violence in the eastern DRC. Kagame has been intimately involved in planning and executing the war in eastern DRC, providing military and political direction to M23 forces and AFC for years now. The Rwandan Defense Forces have provided materiel, logistics, and training support to M23, as well as fighting alongside M23 in DRC with roughly 5,000 to 7,000 troops as of early December. And in light of the commitments made in the Washington Accords, we are deeply concerned that the Rwandan military's continued presence in Congolese territory in support of M23, and we will use the tools at our disposal to hold to account spoilers to peace.
And they don't care, even when they realize that what they're involved in is wrong. But as long as it benefits them one way or the other, they will take that direction. They don't care about him, and especially when it comes to we Africans who are even ready to accept it.
Yes, here we are. Greetings and welcome everyone, family, brothers and sisters of Africa who are here in the continent and to you who are in the diaspora. Is US preparing to invade Rwanda? Is US preparing to capture President Paul Kagame after Nicolás Maduro? Those are questions that are raising right now after US representative at the UN Security Council accusing Rwanda for supporting M23, for backing M23, for training M23, and also supplying logistics to M23. US is preparing to capture President Paul Kagame, or US is ready to invade Rwanda militarily. Who will be the next after Maduro? You know, family, right now, they're spreading narratives for Africans to believe that Rwanda is a source of problem in DRC. And we Africans, and without thinking deep, we will agree that the problem of Congo is because of Rwanda.
So it is difficult to maintain a predictable, consistent relationship as Rwanda and the United States, because within the United States, I'll give you quickly an example affecting Rwanda already. You know, we used to be eligible to AGOA, African Growth Opportunity Act. And then when Rwanda wanted to grow its textile industries, and therefore reduced on the flow of used clothes into Rwanda, some lobbyists, people who are benefiting in the United States from this trade, and by the way, the used clothes, most of it would come from China. And they were selling it to Africa. They have been doing that, and they were selling those clothes to Rwanda. And when we wanted to grow our industries, so the lobbyists who were benefiting from this used clothes trade actually influenced the powers that be in the United States to strike off AGOA Rwanda, so that we came under punishment for just doing that, for wanting to grow economy. So you can see a small country trying to grow its economy, its industries, and has to deal with this situation, then there is a backlash, and we have suffered for that.
Yes, that is President Paul Kagame, explaining how Rwanda was punished by the United States of America after rejected second-hand clothes. Rwanda said, we want to have our own industries. We want to build our own textile industries. Through those industries, we can create jobs, we can manufacture clothes and wear those clothes, we can sell those clothes to to our neighbors. But US said, no, you have to buy from us. Since then, Rwanda and the US are not in good relationship. So now you can understand that the tension between Rwanda and the US didn't start yesterday. Let me take you back almost 8 years ago when President Paul Kagame was the chairman of African Union. President Paul Kagame is the one who came with the idea of Africa Continental Free Trade Area. And these powerful nations, especially Western power, thought African Continental Free Trade Area will replace their market. You know, these powerful nations, they benefit from trade among small nations or these individual nations in Africa with them. So after initiated Africa Continental Free Trade Area, at that time they thought that they are going to lose market. If Africa will start trade among themselves, they will lose market. At that time, Africa was suffering with the issue of energy. And also, for good luck, that time African nations discovered this fossil energy. So these powerful nations came with the idea of green energy to make sure that Africa should not industrialize, to slow African nations down. So when Kagame introduced Africa Continental Free Trade Areas, and many Africans, nations started to electrify, and some joined, these Western power become hungry. They become hunger.
There's nothing between Rwanda and Congo and the conflict thereof. There's nothing that is just Congo and Rwanda. Underneath, there is a volcano, yes, that you have to contend with. There are these external factors and actors and forces that are operating.
You have to ask yourself, the problem of Congo started yesterday? Is it true that Rwanda or President Paul Kagame involved in the removal of Patrice Emery Lumumba of Congo? Or at that time, Kagame was there? If no, so these are just claims and narratives to make Africans believe that the problem of Congo is caused by President Paul Kagame. So when they will come to Rwanda or when they will capture President Kagame, we Africans will say Kagame is a problem of DRC. But I want to take you back historically. Just within a short time, 10 years ago, when Kagame was a chairman of African Union, is the one who came with the idea of Africa Continental Free Trade Area. And also Kagame came with the idea of single passport for Africa, African Union passport. And that passport was inaugurated in Kigali. But because of puppet leaders within the continent of Africa, that passport is not working. That passport remains in the hands of few leaders, including President Paul Kagame himself. You see? So the problem is not Rwanda, the problem is not Kagame, the problem is resources. Let me ask you one question. If US can bomb terrorists in Nigeria, why US cannot bomb M23 in DRC? If US can drop bombs in Iran, why not in DRC to fight those M23? If US can capture Nicolás Maduro, why US cannot capture leaders of M23. So we Africans, we need to connect dots. The problem is the idea of President Paul Kagame. President Paul Kagame has become a model for many Africans, and especially young leaders. So they don't want the idea, or they don't want inspiration from President Paul Kagame. All of us, we know where Rwanda came from after genocide 30 years ago. For 100 years, for 100 days, there was no peace in Rwanda. Blaza raising against Blaza, family against family, even church leaders against their followers. But with the wisdom of President Paul Kagame, he took Rwanda from the ashes, built a new Rwanda. Right now, everyone is talking about Kigali, talking about Rwanda. So that inspiration is the thing that these powerful nations don't want to hear. Let me take you to what is happening in Burkina Faso. You know, right now, recently, almost 2 days ago, Captain Ibrahim Traore survived another coup attempt. You know why they destabilize Burkina Faso, or why they want to remove Captain Ibrahim Traore? The issue is not about Traore, the issue about idea, that this man has idea that will awakening Africans. So they don't want people who are awakening Africans. They did that to Patrice Lumumba. When Lumumba came with the idea of free Congo, they said this man will disrupt our agendas. They removed him. When Kwame Nkrumah came with the idea of United Africa, they take him away. When Thomas Sankara said, we don't want to pay IMF loans because you have already taken our resources. And of course, you need to give us back the remains of our resources. They take him away. Gaddafi, when Gaddafi came and saying, we want a strong African Union that will have its own currency, they take him away. And we thought Gaddafi was dictator. They spread narratives, Gaddafi is bad people, Gaddafi is killing citizens. But at the end of the day, we recognize that the problem was not Gaddafi. The problem was idea of Gaddafi. They don't want leaders with ideas. They want leaders whom they can control. So they want, you know, they have been started talking about human rights in Rwanda. They have been tried to plant some people to destabilize Rwanda. But the problem is not Rwanda, the problem is not Kagame, the problem is ideas, inspiration. And that's why right now you see they're spreading narratives by, they want Africans and the world to believe Kagame is the problem of DRC. Kagame is the source of problem in DRC. Who is the source of Libya? Problem of Libya. Who created the problem of Libya? Is it Kagame? Look what is happening in Syria. Is it Kagame? In Sudan right now, as I speak to you, brothers and sisters, people are dying in Sudan. Is it Kagame in Sudan? In Sahel, is it Kagame? And of course, I'm not defending President Kagame as if Kagame is an angel. I know Kagame is a human being. He has some mistakes, and sometimes he maybe can do something bad. But I want Africans to understand, when someone telling you some stories about someone who have done well or who has awakening Africans, we have to be vigilant. So the time will come, you will see these people will come to Kagame, they will come to any African leader. So we have to be prepared and to be vigilant. So, you know, let me take you a little bit for what Mark Rubio said a few days ago. before capturing of Nicolás Maduro. He said, "You don't care about what UN is saying." What does this statement mean? It means they can do anything at any time. If you don't behave, US has a power to capture you, even if UN can say anything, whether it is wrong or it is okay, it is not international law. If US has decided its goal, or US has its goal, it has to accomplish it. It has to accomplish it. So I'm sharing this for we Africans to understand and to be vigilant and to know the geopolitics and to understand that there's a need for we Africans to come together. So if we don't come together, if we don't unite, we'll be punished one by one. So family, brothers and sisters, that's what has happened few weeks ago, and I'm trying to connect dots after the capture of Nicolás Maduro, because right now we are still waiting who will be the next, who will be captured, because I see that US want full control of resources. So the issue here is Democratic Republic of Congo resources. They want to allow Rwanda to allow people to come in through back door. That's what they want. So see you next time in another video. Thank you.
Thank you, Africa, Mama Africa. Oh, yeah. You make African great. Thank you, freedom. Thank you, Africa.